Good to see everybody. Welcome. Let's begin. Is Axel here or is he still missing? There he is. Okay, so we're going to be scrimmaging a little bit today, and this is quite important leading up to ADCC. So the idea with this is that situations where we're nearly scored upon and then working back into a position that's advantageous for us. So we're going to start with this. We're going to allow our man to get in on double leg. Pretty common, you make a mistake, he gets into your hips here and he gets in to a point where you didn't get a chance to down block, your hips have been caught. He may or may not have his hands locked. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of understand that we're kind of caught here, and rather than being put into a complete flat back miserable position, we're going to allow the takedown to semi happen and go to a posted hand, not in line with where he's going to drive me, but kind of back in here behind him. So we're just going to put a belly whizzer in and we're going to just start to lean down towards the mat. We're going to hit the mat like so and curl our heels in under our butt. Remember, if we leave our legs out long, he wraps our legs up, and next thing you know, we're definitely getting pinned. So our job is to curl our heels to our butt, have our belly whizzer in, and then we can't sit our ass on the mat for an extended period of time. You stay on the mat for an extended period of time, you start to get scored upon. So we're going to make sure that we keep moving and hoisting our hips up off the mat. So we're here. From here, I'm going to take my toes in the mat and start to build height, driving my hips into him. Now, he's not going to want that to happen. He's going to want to run me down, knock my shoulders back flat. So I'm going to be trying to keep my hips forward, post here on the mat, and start to heist. Now, as I make a heist, I'm going to sprawl my hip back on the side his head's on. And we're going to end up in a position that looks something like this. From here, I can strip his grips if need be. And then we're going to come down here in a double pits position. In the double pits position, it's relatively hard, well, it's impossible for him to hit drag outs. And if you do a good job, it should be hard for him to hit sit outs. If you do a poor job with open elbows, sit outs can definitely be something that he does to you here. So we're going to make sure our elbows are locked into our rib line and we're kind of on his center line here like so. Now we're in a good position to start to go behind. From here, I'm going to start to search my head across, look to grab his hamstring. If his hamstring's hidden by his ass, it means he's a Jiu Jitsu guy who's just planning on playing tight turtle here. If he's a guy whose hamstring is up and he's trying to move and maybe 4-point, you know he's a guy who wants to scramble and get back out of here. So keep that in mind. If his ass is driven down to his heels, instead of reaching for the hamstring, we're just going to go down the butt. We're going to drag him forward, cover his hips, and we'll finish here. So one more time. We're in a standing position. He beats me for everything. So I come down here and I curl my legs in. I'm in this kind of battle position here versus letting my legs get wrapped up and yeah, exactly. So I'm ready to fight from this position. I start to build height. Hips go out. Double pits. We're fighting from here. This time he builds a bit of height. I come around, grab the hamstring, into the back. Let's go. What can also happen when people are hitting the double leg is that he gets in here and instead of it turning the traditional way, driving with his head and knocking me down, he comes to his feet and he starts to run back in the hole and knocks me down this way. So we can start to be knocked down on the head on the low side and we end up like this. So rather than landing like this, in this position, you end up landing like this with the head on the low side. Now, I think if anything, it's maybe slightly easier to heist from here, but just keep in mind, as soon as he starts to step over your legs or even just walk all the way over them and search behind you here, now it gets slightly more difficult because your legs are sort of blocked, okay? So if you've still got your legs out to the side here, it's fairly easy to put in the belly whizzer again, build height, and then start to sprawl your hips down, and then we can start to go back through front headlock attacks. But if he manages to, either in the takedown or as you hit the mat, either step over and trap or step all the way over and start to work from here, this is where he might start to work. You get some wrestlers start to lift the legs, shelf the legs up on top of the leg like a tabletop, and next thing you're like, shit, I'm getting pinned here. All right, so we really don't want this to happen. So if you feel you're being pinned on your back, we will go to turtle if we have to. Now, which way could we go to turtle? We could take this out and go, because you can't turtle if you keep your whizzer in, or your belly whizzer. So you can take this out, or the other way, you could kind of turn it back into what we just looked at before. So if you have a look when he goes all the way over there, you might turn all the way here and start to turtle, or you can start to look at what we just looked at before and re-heisting. He's kind of just recreated what we looked at. So let's just see how this might look. Him and I are wrestling. He gets in on the legs and I start to give him a sprawl response. So instead of trying to run me down this way, he just runs in the circle and puts me down on the spot and I end up like this. All right, we'll see if initially I can just make a quick heist and get my hips back out. If he starts to step over and wrap up the legs, I have to make my mind up real quick. Wrap the legs, I have to make my mind up real quick. Do I continue back the direction I was just looking? Or do I go back this way, curling feet? I'll leave it up to you. Or he goes all the way over and you either go to turtle, it's unlikely he stays on your legs, he probably tries to come up the body, or he comes all the way around, I turn back in and we re-heist. So we're just practicing these sequences so we're not surprised when they happen. Let's give it a go. To introduce the idea of Granby rolls. If you're going to become someone who can scramble well, you have to be able to Granby. Now, Granby rolls are a folk style wrestling technique where I roll from one shoulder to the other. And they're a skill that takes a little bit of practice, and once you get it, they'll just sort of flow from there. So if I just do it without my partner on top of me, what we're looking at doing is effectively just rolling from one shoulder to the other. So I take my arm across my body here, and it's not just a near side shoulder roll. I'm rolling from one shoulder to the other. So if you have a look, what the mistake people make is they just hit a near side shoulder roll and roll back to guard. That's a different technique. What I'm doing here is, and you may even find it easier to take your arm behind here initially when you practice it. I don't mind, but I walk my feet around and I go over the top and I end up coming back towards my partner. So I end up rolling over my shoulders. So when you've got someone behind you here, and I start to build height, and I can do it from 4 points as well. My arm goes across and I go shoulder to shoulder here. And I go over the top and then I can come back in, right? So now we're gonna introduce using the Granby in this situation that we're stuck in. So we're down here and I wanna start to heist, but I'm having a hard time and I feel like, you know what? Turtle is my only option, otherwise I'm sitting on my ass. He comes up to here, I start to build height and I cross step, all right? So this cross step makes it slightly hard for him to put his left hook in. If I'm lazy hanging out here for periods of time, he just jumps on the back. So as soon as I come up and I start to open up where my hooks could go, my leg cross steps. From here, my arm goes in underneath myself and I just go shoulder to shoulder. So I Granby this direction. Initially, let's just have your partner just tuck their head and roll with you. This will be a little bit easier when we start to practice it. So I go shoulder to shoulder over the top. Now from here, I could either re-turtle if I felt I couldn't turn in, or I turn in and win the height battle. So I'll show you what the height battle being won would look like. I start to build height, I cross step, he rolls with me, and I turn in and I start to win the height battle. Versus if I'm here and he comes up as well, and it's like a battle where it's like, shit, I think I can't turn back in, I just go back to 4 point, I reboot again, over the top of my shoulders, until I can turn back in. Okay, so we're gonna now run it like this, where we're standing, he beats me for everything, he knocks me down to the mat, I wanna heist, shit's going bad, I've gotta go, I start to turn, I come through, we get into top position. Let's give it a go. Let's look at the idea that we go to turtle, we build height, and anytime that I recognize his head's on the same side of the body, I'll explain it maybe a little better than that. If he's in a 4 point here, a body lock 4 point, and his head's on this side of my body, thank you, I think to myself, I can come up and whip in and put a whizzer in. If his head's across my body, I can't come up and put a whizzer in. So a good rule of thumb for yourself here is if I'm up here and I feel his head's over on this same side, I can hit a reach back and whip in and put in a whizzer. So now effectively he's actually not behind me anymore. And now once I'm in a position like this, I can get to a strong whizzer. Okay, so I don't just want my whizzer to be in, but it's so low and loose that he just clears it out easily. I want my whizzer to be up nice and high. Basically like I'm getting my thumb right up underneath my chest. It's like a good rule of thumb here. I'm lifting him forward the whole time. This is a strong whizzer. And now from here I'm gonna post and we're gonna get into a bit of a dogfight battle here. What I'm gonna start to try and do is lift him forwards. So I'm gonna try and drive my hips up on the inside here and start to lift him forwards and start to knock him down. He's run off my hips at this stage. Yep, that's fine. He's run off my hips. I'm gonna knee cut away, stuff the head, and now we can go back into front headlock attacks. So that's what we'll start out with here. So he's knocked me down, we're wrestling. I got knocked down to a hip. I tried to heist, I feel like I'm gonna be scored upon. I whip over into a 4 point. I could Granby, but I recognize that his head's on the same side, so I take my hand up and over, and now we're here. So in this position where we're battling. I bring my hip in, I start to knock him down, he steps off me, I knee cut away, and then from here we can go back into go behinds. Let's go. Whenever I'm working with an overhook and I actually want to try and throw the guy, there should be this lifting motion happening. Okay, so right now we're standing upright, so lifting him directly up into the ceiling is kind of difficult. But when we're over in this bent over position, posted here like this, the whole time I'm lifting him forwards. You can see his weight going onto his toes. He's literally stumbling forwards. All right, he doesn't want that to happen. He's going to settle into his body lock nice and strong, go. But I'm going to be pulling him forwards, and I'm leaning him over my hip this whole time. So I'm driving off my outside leg, and I'm leaning him over my hip. I'm trying to get my hip across him, and I'm trying to lift my hip. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to lift him and run him down. He wants to run away. Fantastic. Now we can start to go. Because he kind of has the better position with the underhook, with the body lock. We're trying to open that thing up, and we're trying to put his weight forward. So we're down here like this. Okay, you could go into uchis. You could go to hand post uchis, but let's play around with toes and feet on the mat and using our hip. If he wants to stay where he is and keep running behind me, go, you're gonna start to send him over the top. Okay, so he's got to make a decision. Does he want to give the hips up, or does he want to keep trying to run the hips down? So we're here, he wants to keep his body lock. But if he maintains the body lock, he might lose his position. So often they'll open the hand and go to a posted hand, and now he's underhook versus overhook. With a posted hand, we're basically in a dog fight. He wants to run over my hips, I'm lifting the whole time. Run over the hips. Yeah, he's got to be very careful here. He's going to get run down. If he gives me too much room, I knee cut away. Let's go again. This is the position I end up with Ethan a lot, and Ethan's really fucking good here in effectively what is a dog fight. Just so you understand what a dog fight is, we're both down here on our knees, up on the outside leg, and it's underhook versus overhook, and we're battling away. Really, we want that front hip position. He wants to get the front hip, get a body lock, get his head up inside me and start to knock me down here. He would like this. And I want to start to win the front position, or start to win this way, and start to lift with our hip like we were just looking at here. Remember, I don't want my whizzer to fall low, I want it to be lifting high. Now, this is all well and good if I can lock up that whizzer, but what happens if when I go to reach back, his head's not in that position? So we're here, I 4-point up and his head's across the body. I could Granby, or I can come up and reach to here. Now, there's nothing stopping him lifting his head up towards, taking his ear towards my back and then walking back this way, and he'll clear out my grip. All right, I could then try to reach back. If he's smart, he'll kind of play somewhere in the middle and where I can't really reach him that well. All right, but there's gonna be a moment where you whip up and you get an overback grip for a moment. And if you get this for a moment, we're gonna see if we can hit something here. We can start to look at trapping the arm. He's in a body lock, so you know he's kind of connected to you anyway. And all we're gonna do is we're just gonna step in here and hook in our leg, and then we're gonna hop forward into an Osoto Gari. So we're gonna hop, 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 my head comes forward until I get to a point where my feet align with his. And now I'm just gonna lift with the overback, pull on the tricep, and just throw him forwards here onto the mat. All right, Gary Tonen's quite good at this if you watch Gary, because Gary likes working with these scrambly positions. So we're down here, we're building height, his head's across, I hit a whip back here, I hook in, and I throw him with an overback. Maybe his head's on the same side. I start to work here, and we're out. Heads across the body, I build height, throw him with the overback. Let's go. Forward, I sweep his leg out, but I rotate to hit the throw here. So I kind of slide him through and I pull on the tricep. We just clean that up a little bit. So we get into a position here. Now don't take a posture that looks like this. Yeah, you'll just get lifted and launched. So I take this weird posture where I kind of lock in forwards here and I hop, 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 and then I start to hit the throw. Let's go.